Haidong. In this video, we're going to talk about aspects of stance focus number 2. So this is the second half of the longer sequence of stance focus. So again, last time we did kimase, sodose, bonsei, and all that fun stuff. This time we're going to do Gungai dominium, which is everyone's favorite, teirose and bokose, as well as the kimase, which is in all of the stance focuses. But let's take a look. The first major concept is the idea of synchrony. I'm going to use, again, the Japanese term that I like for that, again, the specific aspect of it, kikentai ichi, right? Again, so your sword, your body, and your breathing are all in one motion. Thinking about that specifically for your Gungai dominium, because this stance doesn't have like ample applications aside from using it as counterbalance. So, for example, like if I want to do a strike similar to what we're doing in the stance focus, right? If I want to do a center cut but I'm close range, but I want more power, so I could do hachiba, right? Here, pull back, and notice I'm kind of unstable here. So yes, you get a lot more power, but it's also high risk, high reward because it's hard to get out of. Versus something like pao sensei or gungai dominium. So side note, so gungai dominium is the stance, pao sensei is the guard. We usually have those together, but technically this is just gungai dominium, right? So the golden rooster stance, right? So as we do our sun cut in stance focus number 2, we're going to bring our knee up, again, almost like equal and opposite, right? Not almost like, in fact, equal and opposite. So the idea of this is if I want to get a little bit extra snap, I don't want to destabilize, I can bring that knee up to get a little more oomph because it has that kind of core crunching idea. So if I'm here, like we just did our nice, kimase, someone's over here, I'm going to do my gungai domyipse, right? So I'm going to be here, I'm going to turn, I'm going to bring this knee up, again, same time. So sword and body, right? So that's going to be ken and tai, right? So we just need the breathing as well. So breathe out as you bring the knee up, as the sword comes forward, right? So again, the idea here is you should be nice and prepared. You're going to crunch the core. The sword's going to go forward. The knee's going to come in at the same time, right? Same thing over here, right? Again, the idea behind that being getting a little more oomph in your cut without losing necessarily any of your distance. Another idea that is accentuated in this one, but is also good for obviously all forms and every time you're in a stance, is how you shift your weight, specifically in your glutes. Again, your glutes are really going to be the major way to control your stance, how to move in and out of your stances. So this is a good point for us to really talk about it, right? So especially after we do our second gungai domyip, right? So if we're here, right? Really thinking about the transition of the weight in your glutes, right? So right now, it's on my left glute. I want to think about shifting it to my right as I cut forward this way, right? So if I'm here, nice activation. As I plant, as I'm shifting, it's going to shift from the left to the right. As I turn, same thing going that way, right? So if I'm here, shifting now from, actually for me, it's going to be shifting from the right to the left. As I turn, activate, as I cut forward. So this is going to be true not just for, again, stance focus. A really good thing for you to practice, if this is something you want to practice, is Sangsu 2, right? So from here, cut, shift, right? Shift, up, push forward, shift, as you come in and cut, shift, etc. So this is a really good form for you to practice that aspect as well, but going through that in stance focus number 2 is going to be also a good way to emphasize it, as well as trying to also get power from that shift and having the ability to stay more or less neutral, right? So your center of balance should remain pretty much where it is. So it shouldn't be like going forward and back too much. So by activating the glutes, it's going to be a lot easier to have that transition. And the last aspect I would like to talk about is specifically the bokose. So again, that's the crouching tiger stance, right? It is the one that's, first of all, it's kind of shown off in our uniform, right? It's a nice looking stance. One can argue whether or not it's applicable in combat, but it is one that is good to have at your ability, just because it again shows your dexterity and all fun stuff. But make sure you do it safely. There's a lot of ways you can kind of do this in a bad way, right? So this is going to be kind of like a runoff of the previous thing, but as you sink into your bokose, be sure you're really activating the glutes. If you do not activate them, you actually do run the risk of coming down too quickly, and your spine may not be properly supported, so you might be like dropping down and moving around in a weird position that might like dislocate, maybe probably not dislocate, but it's going to cause some discomfort, if not something worse. So make sure you really do activate the glutes as you sink, right? And as you do so, especially as you get used to it, do so slowly, right? I myself can't do it as well as I would like, especially on my left side, because again, I don't have cartilage in this side of the knee, so huzzah, right? But the idea with that is also think about the geometry of your knees. So if you have your knee splayed out, the going down in the stance is going to be very, very difficult, and it's going to probably do some damage. So make sure as you sink down, I think we're going to be out of camera, so I'm just going to do it above. So if you hear, as you sink down, make sure that knee is slightly tucked in, so it should be on the inside of your elbows as you cut, right? Otherwise you're going to be elbowing the inside of your thigh, which is not going to be comfortable. So it's not really much of an aspect to really think about, but it's a kind of like a PSA, so public service announcement. Make sure you're really, really careful about how you get in and out of this. All I can really say is do so slowly. Make sure you activate the proper muscle groups. Again, the bigger muscle groups, the glutes, the thigh, the core, and don't go lax. Otherwise, you might get stuck there, or you might get stuck there and twist in such a way that's really going to do some longer-term damage. So be careful, right? Especially as you go through the form and stance focus. So stance through 7, for example, has this, as well as high-level forms. So make sure you are safe with it. Didn't really intend for that to be a Debbie Downer, but that's also part of martial arts, Debbie Downers. But the idea of, again, doing things in a safe manner, right? I know we're learning how to, cause others harm, but we don't want to cause harm ourselves. Again, one reason I really like Gumdo is because it's so ergonomically and kinesiologically sound, at least for the most part, right? So like when we do our cuts, there's not really that much weird muscle, like, angles that your elbows are at or whatever. It's all pretty clean. And if you do Gumdo well, you can do it for a very long time. You can kind of actually de-stress your body if you really internalize some of the aspects. Again, using the major muscle groups that we work on in Kimase, all of that stuff is really going to help you in the long term. So I guess with that, make sure you stay safe. So stay safe. So stretch, obviously, before you do any of this. So stay safe, stay humble, keep training, and be mindful of the way your body moves, again, especially as you go through stances and as you go through your sword training. Haidong!